Peace, peace, peace. Let's build, yeah.
We in this motherfucker once again.
I was building with my barber about the teachings of the father. How the woman is the earth and the black man is hollow. Preachers in the churches where they hooping and they holler. And the secrets of the masons on the back of the dollar. Mysteries of life from the Buddhist to Kabbalah. Muslims making hard, throwing stones at the Kaaba. How America's weak, all the chicks in the armor. 9/11 Wall Street fold is all karma. The hopes of a people on the shoulders of Obama.
We're gonna go in, gonna let it ride out.
Laugh, share, pound,
step
and I
away
pay
from the
for
camera.
the
We'll be back.
Comment on my jeans
60
and
seconds.
skip designer, walking hypocrite, still trying to make my mind up. Mentally in bondage from post-slave trauma, the breakup of the nation. Malcolm versus Elijah, Noble Drew Ali verse Wali F. Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, walaikum assalama. 5 pillar stands from Zakat to Shahada, Mark to a martyr, Spark to the starter. Universal law that we all play a part of, from Zion to the Rasta, Mayan to La Raza. History to tell that the strong get the author. Lead or you follow, school or you scholar. 3 forms of matter, liquid, gas, solid, man, woman, child, sun, moon, star, holy trinity, ghost, son, and the father. Grandmama sang for the hem of his garment. We made in God's image, but who is the artist? Alpha and Omega, tell me where it started. It's hard to see the heavens from the view with my projects. Yeah.
Now that probably went over most people's heads, but it's only for the ones with the proper sight and the proper hearing. You get what I'm saying? So we're gonna go in the art of psychic warfare. So what is this about, right? So I have a couple cards here from the tarot. All of my decks have certain cards already pulled out to better illustrate my points. So we're gonna go right in. So what is psychic warfare? What is all this about? Is this about the government and, you know, pushing fear and what they doing to us? No, it's not about that. So don't even think I'm going there. I'm not. This ain't no conspiracy shit. We already know about that. You know, you can go to anybody else's channel and learn about all that. But specifically what we're going to do here, we're going to deal with the solution. What do you do in psychic warfare, since we already know what we're dealing with? We already know what game we in. Everybody's in the game, whether you like it or not. So what do you do? On a physical level, as well as a spiritual level, as well as a mental level. What are the counterattacks? What do we do? First and foremost is to understand the warrior spirit. If you don't understand the warrior spirit, then you're obviously going to be prey to a predator. In other words, to put it in plain terms, right? If we don't understand psychic warfare, we will become a victim of psychic warfare. Anybody can go outside their house right now and see what it means to be a victim of psychic warfare, right? We don't need to get into it. So we know if you're not on your square, if you're not on your game, you will be susceptible to the subtle influences of what we're dealing with on the psychic level. Whether you want to call it Star Wars, you know, Illuminati wars, you know, royal family wars, whatever you want to call it. Everybody know, whatever angle you want to view it from, we know that there is warfare going on. Whether it's your body warfare, your mental warfare, or your psychic or your spiritual warfare. So, in the tarot, what card illustrates war? The card that illustrates war is obviously the energy of Mars. Now, what card represents the energy of Mars? The Tower. Another name for the Tower is War, or the House of God. Now I'm seeing bad connection here, so if it stutters a little bit too much, it may be a stutter here and there. But if it stutters too much till it gets a little bit crazy, let me know. Then I can just restart the stream and, you know, we go from there. So if it's a little bit, it may be a little here and there, so just giving you a forewarning. So let's get back into it. All right, here we go. Right, the Tower. Now, if we go from the Hebrew alphabet, the symbol for the Hebrew letter that represents this card is a mouth. That's why you see a mouth in this card. Now, in every tarot deck, it doesn't illustrate the mouth. That's why I brought my other tarot deck so you can see it in different manifestations. So in this particular deck, you can see that it has a mouth in there and it's shooting out flames. So this is the Tower, just to get a good look at it. So obviously you see here the Eye of Shiva, the big eye that you're looking at. Up top, the Eye of Shiva. When the Eye of Shiva is open, everything is annihilated. The universe is annihilated. So what does that mean on the psychic level? Took a few notes actually, because this is just how serious I'm going to take this. I actually took notes for once. I'm not going off the top of the head this time. So we're going to actually deal with some science. Just to step things up, you know, challenge a few people just in case you thought you know a little something. You know, I'm going to hit you in the chest with some new information. Just in case you didn't know, and if you already knew, you know, a reminder is always good. So, let me show you the Tower in another deck. Now, this is the Crow's deck. Here's the card in the Crow's deck. Let me put it over here. I know it's a lot of reflection here, so we'll put it up this way. Right, so it looks like a etheric being shooting out all types of electric energy. Now, obviously, we also know, if you study the symbol of Mars, it represents pure masculine energy or iron. But we'll get into that in just a second, but I definitely want to show you all these illustrations. So you see the electric energy. Mars is electric. Let me show you the card in the other deck as well, one more time. So you see it's filled with electric energy, very electric imagery. Let me show you this illustration in one other deck. Here we go. Right? So you see it, the tower is being struck by a lightning bolt. So in all these decks, you see what's being illustrated is pure electric energy, which can most times be destructive. However, sometimes you need a destructive force to clear the battlefield. Because again, we're talking about psychic warfare. So we're not just strictly talking about the physical warfare, but the psychic warfare. So all these illustrations, look at this from a psychic point of view, or you can say a psychological point of view. What's going on mentally, spiritually, and even on a physical level. But you can say that's the last level or the first level. Because the reason I'm talking about the psychic levels is once you master the physical realm, and basically mastery of the physical realm is just mastery over your own body, your own thoughts, your own emotions, your own physical composition. That's mastery over the physical plane. Mastery over the physical plane doesn't mean having $1 million or success, you know, in monetary gain or material things. Success is controlling your thoughts, your vibrations, your frequencies, all these internal mechanisms, and manifest that discipline outwardly and strengthen your body so that you can do more and you can express yourself to the fullest, to your fullest capabilities. That's mastery over the physical realm, just being able to express yourself to the fullest. And you do that by having mastery over your body. And again, a good archetype for mastery over your body is, of course, Bruce Lee. That's why I talk a lot about martial arts and having some form of yoga, some form of physical discipline to get your body on point. But it's not enough to work out. That's good to be healthy, but you're not working out necessarily to get muscles or to be healthy. You work out for psychic defense. See, this is the thing. When you change the mentality behind why you do what you do, you get different results. For example, you know, you have people that like to acquire a lot of things to show off to other people. Then you have people who acquire things for their own amusement. Based on your ability to know why you do what you do, is it really an outside influence or is it an internal influence? Because that will shape and mold the results you get. So, when you master your physical body for a psychic defense, not to attack anybody, but as a defense mechanism. You learn the art of war to defend yourself, not necessarily to be on the offense, seeing who you can wage war with. It's more so when the war is brought to you, and it will be. The war will be brought to you at some point in your life. Several times in our lives, we will have to face war, whether it's, war within the family, war, at your place of business, actual physical war, or on a psychic level where you have, outside influences who don't have your best interests at heart. So whenever war is manifested in your physical reality or your mental or spiritual or psychic reality, you do these techniques to master your body so that you can have a form of defense. So when something affects everybody around you, you will be the only one that remains conscious because you've been working to strengthen your psychic defense. Now let's take it a step further, because since we're on the subject of Mars or pure masculine energy, of course we got to talk about iron. Now we can look at iron from two ways. We can look at iron from the outside of the human body, then we can look at iron from the inside of the human body. From the outside of the human body, iron is the last element to be produced before a supernova collapses. For all you astronomy people who study the stars and all that, the last element to be produced before a violent collapse of a supernova is iron. So when you see all that stuff spreading, most of that is iron. Iron is the last element to be produced when it comes to a supernova. Now we can, you can picture that in your mind, how that affects the earth. Obviously, iron is a very, very common compound in the earth. Steel, iron and steel. A lot of things are made from iron and steel. We don't even need to go into that. So obviously, it's something that's used on a daily basis all around the world. Now, what about iron from the human perspective? What is iron doing within us? Now, without being too scientific, we know that iron reacts to oxygen and water. What does that mean? We know blood within the body is blue or green, whatever. It's not red, right? Somebody said audio is going in and out. Let me double check the audio. Make sure everything is good here. I want to make sure y'all hearing every word. All right. So let me know if that's good. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Let me know if that worked. But nonetheless, we're gonna keep going. Right? So iron in the body. Because iron reacts to oxygen and water, that's why when oxygen hits the blood, it turns red. Blood turns red when it hits the blood. Oxygen turns the blood red, in other words, right? Because iron is reactive towards oxygen and water. Now we know oxygen and water are feminine qualities. Or you can say water and oxygen, you can say is a fusion of masculine and feminine, the fire and the water. However you want to put it. But we see because iron reacts to water, that's why it represents the masculine principle. And of course, because it's the iron that turns the blood red, the reaction with the iron and the oxygen, that's why men are attracted to the color red. Woman in a red dress, the red lipstick, the red fingernails, whereas women are mostly drawn to blue. But that's why when you see the red, for all my men out there, that's why it has a reaction. Even if you print out the color red and you put it on your wall and you just stare at the color red, red has the ability to accelerate your blood flow. We know wherever energy goes or the attention goes, the energy flows. So you can direct your attention or your real energy or your prana or your chi, you can direct that around the body to accelerate your bloodstream to promote healing. All the technical stuff, right? Let's continue. We're talking about psychic warfare. What's the next level? All right? What are the other elements of Mars? When we study astrology, the zodiac signs that are ruled by Mars are Aries, as well as Scorpio in certain traditions. Certain traditions is mixed with Mars and Pluto. Certain traditions is only Pluto, but the older traditions is Mars. So you got Aries and you got Mars. So let's look at the hieroglyphs for Aries and Mars, and let's see what they have in common, if anything at all. So let's start with the Thoth deck. Let's see what Aries and Mars represents here. So Aries is the emperor, right? So we're just talking about pure masculine energy. We're talking about strategy. We're talking about the number 9, right? The planet Mars, the number 9. So when we study the energy of Mars, we see the emperor. Why is it the emperor? Is it just for the masculine energy? You notice he's holding a bomb, right? And he's, he has his legs in a 90-degree angle, for those who are aware of what that means. So what is this talking about? This is talking about being a general. This is talking about the warrior spirit, as I spoke about earlier. Getting into that warrior spirit. The difference between the Aries and the Scorpio is the Aries is the light side, or the heroic side, and the Scorpio is the dark side. So the Aries deals more so with the physical plane, and the Scorpio deals more so with the spiritual or the psychic plane. And we'll get into the Scorpio in just a second. But while we're dealing with the Aries, so, when you deal with Aries people or just the Aries energy, we'll just say the Aries energy, period. So that you can see it manifested on all levels, and not just the human level, but the psychic level or the spiritual level, as well as the metaphysical level. And that's why we talked about the metaphysical level or the elemental level of iron. Then we'll talk about the astrology of Aries, the constellation of Aries. And as well as the physical planet, what does it have to do with your physical body and you strengthening your body? So we're talking about things from a holistic point of view. So the pure masculine energy deals with strategy, deals with tactics, deals with warfare. As a masculine principle, you learn the art of war, because that's what we're here to do. Again, it's not for the offense, it's for the defense. You know that sooner or later, somebody's going to come and want to take what you have, hurt your family, harm you, whatever. That's just the way the world is. We live in a world of capitalism. We live in a world full of barbaric people who obviously only have this world. When you only have the physical plane, when you don't have access to the psychic plane or the spiritual plane, where this is all you have, then you go all out. And that's what you see in this world today, where people, when you're cut out from the spiritual realm, when all you have is this is why people abuse drugs. This is why people commit the crimes they commit. And again, there's no judgment. Because this is not a perfect world. But when we study the dynamics behind what goes on, we see what happens when you don't have the spiritual connection. When all you have is the physical plane, there is no wonder why people are willing to risk it all to get a physical reimbursement, whether it be in the form of material goods or money or what have you. People are willing to risk it all or sell their soul, as we all know, for material gains. But all that is easy. It's easy to sell your soul when all you have is a physical plane. And if all you have is a physical plane, you want to make sure that while you're here, you have the most luxurious and comfortable well-being while you are alive, because you don't have no awareness of the spiritual plane and life beyond the physical. So you make everything about the physical. But while we are here on the physical plane, you must be on your square at all times. Always be on your square. It don't matter if you're dealing with family. It don't matter if you're dealing with friends. It don't matter if you're dealing with your significant other, teachers, principals, co-workers, bosses, people under you. Always think from the warrior mentality and have the warrior spirit. How do you have the warrior spirit? You just connect with the energy of Mars, whether you chant 999 or just chant 9, or just work with the energy of Mars, work with the energy of Aries, work with the energy of Scorpio. What does that mean? These are constellations. Work with the constellation of Aries. How do you work with the constellation of Aries? Draw the symbol or sigil of Aries and carry it around with you. That's a symbol of the Aries constellation, and it's a mathematical equation that will activate the energy within you. It will give extra stimulation to your solar plexus. Your solar plexus controls your self-talk, the conversation you have within yourself. That's why when you see old warriors who have the breastplates, when you see warriors with breastplates and have jewels and gems on their breastplates, it's because it strengthens their self-talk. As we all know, you can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Your own self can be what causes you to fall or what causes you to succeed. That's why it's never about other people. It's never about nobody else. It's about your own self-talk. You can talk yourself into success or you can talk yourself into defeat. Not even with your physical mouth, but your spiritual mouth or your psychic mouth. We usually say the psychic mouth. And again, this is why the energy of Mars represents the mouth. Your mouth has the ability to shoot out flames. But are those flames destroying everything around you, or is it leveling out the playing field? You just saying what needs to be said to move on, or you're focusing on tearing down other people around you. See, we'll get more into that in just a second. But let's focus on the Scorpio energy now. Or while we're on Aries, let me show you the other decks. Let me show you the other decks before we move on. Right? So let's see. Here's the Emperor and the Crow's deck in the form of an owl. And the attributes are, if you can see, Overlord and Supremacy. If you can see those words. Overlord, Supremacy. And you see the Aries symbols right there. Right? To connect with the constellation of Aries. Now, why is this an owl? So when you deal with the not the elemental, the animal spirits. So you have the elemental spirits, but then you have the animal kingdom. For those who know about the animal kingdom and the animal totems. So we have different energies we're able to connect to. That's why I'm showing you different types of tarot decks, so you can connect with you can connect with different types of energies in different types of ways. So if you want to connect with Mars, you connect with the owl. For those who are more about nature spirits, you can connect with the owl if you don't want to connect with the Aries constellation. It's just a different way of doing things, right? So you can connect with the owl animal totem, study the owl. If you have the ability or access to be around owls, then study them. Watch a documentary on owls to see how they live their life. You know what I mean? See how they navigate through the dark. They are supreme warrior spirits. If you study the owl, go on YouTube. I guess you're already on YouTube. Just type in owl documentary and see how the owl, put in that work. See how it is a superior hunter. It can see in the dark. It can navigate the dark and all that. So if you want to study the warrior spirit, the owl is definitely a symbol to study. Now let's see what this energy is in the Egyptian deck. Now we have this Emperor energy from the Egyptian perspective. Right? You see the Aries head, the Overlord, the Supremacy, right? And he's ruling it's like he's in a desert, right? So you don't see fruits and trees and women and all the material goods around him, right? You don't see him living it up. Spiders are Venus. Spiders are representative of Venus for the person that asked that question. But you don't see him around nothing but wasteland. The reason you see him around wasteland is because he's in the warrior spirit. When you at war, you're on the battlefield. When you're on the battlefield, you're in the wasteland. You can potentially be surrounded by dead bodies, by the end of it all. So when you're in a wasteland or a battlefield, the only way for you to have supremacy over that battlefield is to be in the warrior spirit. If you don't have a warrior spirit, that's how certain people break. And they can't take the art of war. It'll destroy your mind. It'll eat you alive. A good movie to study is the Scarface movies. The old school Scarface movies. when you study the first one, the second one, and the third one, when you study it from a warrior's perspective, you will see how his downfall was caused because he didn't play the art of war correctly. You know? But again, when you study movies from the warrior perspective, you can see things that you otherwise didn't see when you was watching it purely for entertainment. You know? So again, in order to be on your throne in a wasteland, is to have the warrior spirit. If you don't have the warrior spirit, you will break. So the only way to survive in the wasteland is to have your psychic defense or your self-talk, your solar plexus, A1. So let's deal with the energy of Mars from the Scorpio perspective. See, shit, I'm already 30 minutes in now. I'm only two cards in. You know what I mean? But you know what happened when you get to talking. We know the spirit's coming through. Let's go to Scorpio. Let me take the Scorpio card out. So hopefully everybody's enjoying themselves. We're not gonna take up too much time. I'm gonna try to get out of here in an hour. You know what I mean? So y'all can take it with you and continue upon your day with the warrior spirit if you're already not in the warrior spirit. Again, it's the number 9. You can change the house number to the number 9. You can set the number 9. You can work with the energy of Mars. You can work with the energy of Aries or the energy of Scorpio. Now, what if you choose to work with the energy of the Scorpio? Aries can be seen as the warrior on the warrior field or the battlefield, the warrior on the battlefield. Scorpio can be said to be the ninja. Look at Scorpio as a warrior, but from the ninja perspective. He moves in the shadows, or she moves in the shadows. This is still the art of war, just a different form of the art of war, where you are the silent killer. So you're not the outward killer on the battlefield shooting a gun or swinging a sword. You the ninja sent on secret missions to kill high-ranking officers and make it seem like a suicide or whatever, you know. It's that type of warfare. You can say it's definitely way closer to psychic warfare than the Aries approach. So if you want a little more secret approach or a little more subtle approach, you can work with the energies of Scorpio. Now here's the card of Scorpio, the energy of Scorpio. Now the Hebrew symbol for Scorpio is the fish, and you see the fish in here. If you see the fish right there. So you see the skeleton. Obviously, if you notice that crown, that's the crown of Osiris. For those who study their Egyptian mythology, you will see that's a crown to Osiris, who was the lord of the underworld. Right? So you see, he's now in the underworld. His spirit has went to the spirit plane. Right? But it's a dance of death. So you see the Scorpio, you see the snake, you see the scorpion crawling. See a lot of things. You see the actual spirits. And you see it's like he has an instrument in his hand playing a divine song. Right? Now let's look at it from another perspective, from the animal totem. It's a flaming crow. It deals with the death energy. Death energy deals with mutation and regeneration. I believe that's what it says. Regenerate, mutate. So Scorpio is dealing with regeneration and mutation or transformation. So that's why you see the crow is on fire, just like the phoenix. The phoenix catches on fire, burns to ashes, and is reborn from the ashes. So you see, fire is a purifying element. You channel the energy of fire when you want to purify yourself. When you want more motivation, more inspiration, you want to cleanse yourself spiritually, you access the fire realm. So let's just say you're about to take a bath. You can program the water with the element of fire. How can you do that? You can put crystals in the water that represent the energy of Mars or the solar plexus, right? Or if you're more of a psychic warrior, you can project the energy of Mars or fire into the water and program the water before you get in that motherfucker. Purify yourself on a spiritual level. So you can do it mentally And you can do it, with the crystals. Again, channel the energy of the Scorpio constellation or the energy of the crow, but not just a crow, a flaming crow. So this is an image that you can use in your mind to channel the energy of Scorpio if need be. So let's see it from the Egyptian perspective. The energy of death from the Egyptian perspective. You see the coffin or the sarcophagus, and you see the god Anubis. The god Anubis was the god that prepared the dead bodies, made the pharaohs basically the mummification process. Anubis was in charge of that. Anubis also represents the energy of Scorpio. So if you want to access the energy of Scorpio, a god form you can work with is the energy of Anubis. Another way to do it. So once again, now what is this underworld energy talking about? So this is going into the spiritual plane or the psychic plane. So again, like I was saying, the ninja. So the ninja is more in tune with the subtle energies of the planet. That's why they're able to navigate in the darkness and to not be seen, to not be heard, and to not even be felt. They can cover their auras and suppress their aura so you can't even feel them even if you are psychically aware. That's just how much they have trained their internal beings. So you see the heroic Aries versus the night ninja, and they're both warriors in their own right, but the ninja is more so focused on the internal or the spiritual so that they can transcend the physical and do things that the normal human being can't do. And the Aries energy or the heroic warrior on the battlefield does the same thing, just in a different way. So you can say the Aries is more so like the solar energy, and the Scorpio is more like the lunar energy when it comes to the energy of Mars. So the energy of Mars has two forms, the Aries and the Scorpio, right? Now, let's see what the Scorpio energy represents here. It represents the energy of momentum. Now, for all the people that study physics, know what momentum is, because there's a difference between acceleration, momentum, velocity. Most of the times we tend to use those words interchangeably, but they all have their own separate definition. So when it comes to momentum, what is momentum? And again, I got the notes right here. So let's see when we directly want to deal with the energy of momentum. What is momentum? Momentum is the quantity of motion based on mass and velocity. Velocity, another word for speed. So based on the weight of the object and the speed of the object controls the quantity of the momentum that's generated from the movement of the object. So when we deal strictly with the energy of momentum, we have to first use our mathematical mind. For example, if you want to throw something far, you know that you have to throw like a little ball or something. You're not going to try to throw something of a large mass and expect it to go far. You have to throw something smaller. So something with less mass can generate more velocity in a shorter amount of time. So what does this have to do with Scorpio? Scorpio is dealing with momentum because we're dealing with psychic momentum. How do you increase your psychic momentum? So we're going beyond physics. How do you increase your psychic momentum? Which is basically depending on your mass and your speed. Now, what does that mean? Your mass is based on how light you are or how heavy you are. So if we're talking about a psychic defense, so we're not talking about your physical weight. We're talking about your spiritual or your psychic weight, meaning how much weight you have on your heart. How much have you really let go of the things that hold you back? We all know most of our problems are mental, and they're just physical manifestation of mental problems. So when we walk around the world thinking that, we're in the wrong or we made mistakes or, we're walking around with regrets, whatever, things didn't go the way we thought, things didn't happen the way we planned, so we walk around with all this weight on our chest, that makes us heavy on a psychic level. Now, if you have more weight on a psychic level, it's harder for you to what? Gain speed. It's harder for you to gain speed because you're too heavy. So again, for all the people who, don't really astral travel, who find it hard to channel, who find it hard to do anything spiritual because it just seems a little bit too heavy. It's certain people that listen to this type of information and get sleepy. And I'm pretty sure everybody has experienced that. Maybe your first time listening to spiritual information, you sort of it's very heavy on you because it's new information, and based on your mass, it's just the difference of frequency is too great. You fall asleep. You literally can't vibe on the same level as the information because you're a little bit too heavy at the time. Now, what about the velocity, the speed? So we know, depending on your psychic weight, determines how fast you can go. And depending on how fast you can go or how far you can travel, that's how much momentum you can build up on a psychic level. So in other words, for everybody who wants to do spiritual or psychic dynamics, such as astral travel, such as channeling information, such as, predicting the weather, astrology, and all these things, or any of the arts, the dark arts, the spiritual arts, being mediums, being healers, whatever your way into the occult is, whatever path you choose to take into the occult, based on your velocity and your mass or your psychic weight, will be based on how fast you can go, and how fast you can go determines how far you can go, if that makes any fucking sense. I know I'm bringing all this science into this, but it's all one science. And once we bring it all full circle, you combine the physics and the biology and the chemistry, you combine it all with the spiritual shit, and you can see it for what it really is. This is the natural law. This is natural science. This is what we already knew. This is already encoded in our DNA. If you understand all these things, if this is not hard for you to comprehend, it's already within you. You've already done the work prior to this lifetime, and you came back to go to another level. That's what we are here to do. This is all a hidden circle for you to even be researching this information, for you to even be interested, for you to even have the desire and the hunger in your heart to go on, even when you have no money, no friends, no family, when all you care about is knowledge. That's when you start to get somewhere, when your focus becomes wisdom. I want to gain more wisdom, and to gain more wisdom, you have to go through shit, pain and suffering. When you go through that pain and suffering, you can transmute that pain and suffering to become that knight in the shining armor. Transmutation of that pain and suffering, which is what war is. You're going to have losses in war. You're going to have some wins, but you're going to have losses in war as well. So you have to transmute those losses that you take in order to keep your spirit shining, to continue on. Like, you may lose a battle, but just because you lost a battle don't mean you lost the war. But if you lose your warrior spirit because you didn't allow yourself to transmute that pain and suffering, then that's how your light starts to burn out, because now all this stuff is weighing on your heart. Damn, I lost so many people. Damn, I made so many mistakes. When all that self-talk we were talking about earlier, that self-talk starts to get the best of you, then it starts to deplete your warrior spirit, and now, you start to get depressed, and you start to give up. So if you don't want all that to happen, you have to transmute that pain and suffering. We all have pain and suffering. That's one thing we all share. Pain and suffering in some form or fashion. That's not unfamiliar to any of us. So if you want to transmute the pain and suffering, the Scorpio energy. So if you have trouble transmuting that energy, that's why you connect with the Scorpio energy, to help with that transmutation process and to build up your warrior spirit. That's why you tap into the Aries energy. Now, we're not done. We have a couple more cards. that I want to talk about. So that was just strictly the Mars energy. Now, let's move on here. Let me grab these cards. Now we got a couple more phases. Because we deal with the Mars energy, right? The Mars energy is a number 9. You can get to number 9 in a couple of ways. You can get to the number 9 while having a pure 9, just the number 9. You can also get to 9 by going through the 18, the 1 and the 8. You can also get to 9 by going through the 2 and the 7. So on one level, you got 9. On another level, you got 18. On another level, you got 27. All those can be broken down to pure 9. Now, depending on which way you get to the 9, depends on which portal or which gateway you have to open. So I explained the pure Mars. Now, let's just say you want to get to Mars or get to that number 9 through the 18. Whether you was born on the 18th day, just obviously 1 is the sun and 8 is Saturn. So now we have to work with the energies of the sun and also the energies of Saturn to get to that number 9. So everything that I just explained, we can get to that same process just using a different gateway. So let's work with the energy of the sun and Saturn. All right, which is right here. Let's get these cards out the way. So here's the sun. And obviously we know the energy of the sun deals with the source. So whenever you want to connect back to your source or connect back to your roots, your cosmic roots, and that's why you see astrology on this card. If you didn't see, you see the 12 zodiac signs, right? Around the card. You also see it on Saturn. You see the 4 corners of the earth on the Saturn card, right? Now, what's the difference? The difference is this is the macrocosm or the astrology wheel and the stars. And you can say this is the physical wheel on the earth plane because it's dealing with the energy of Saturn. Now, what does that mean? So we know the energy of the sun helps you connect back to the source, your cosmic source, the star constellations. And as you see, again, you got the 12 zodiac signs, you got the 2 angels, you got the mountaintop, and you got the sun shooting out the electric energy from the center, from the source. So the electric energy from the source. Now, let's go to this. Now, what does the sun represent on an energetic level? On an energetic level, the energy of the sun deals with force, the energy of force. Now, what is force? Now, force is something that causes the change in the motion of an object. Say it one more time. Force is something that causes a change in the motion of an object. So what causes a change in the motion of an object is outside interference. So, as we see here, what can cause a change in the motion of an object on a macrocosmic level or a cosmic level? What can cause change? That's what astrology is. Astrology just lets you know how the planets have an effect on our attributes, our moods, which is the moon, our inspirations, our motivations in the sun, our communication, Mercury, so on and so forth. So astrology lets us know that the planetary energies do have an effect on our physical being, just as well as our health sometimes as well. Then, retrogrades, so on and so forth. So we know that on a macrocosmic level, it does have an ability to interfere with what you may be thinking in your mind, because it may be a Saturn return or whatever. All these astrology terms, it has an effect on, even if we are not aware of it. We may just think we just going through a hard time, not knowing that it's a Saturn return in the sky or it's a Mercury retrograde. You may think it may just be some shit going on with you when it's the planetary energies having an interference and what's going on in our physical reality, because they do have an effect. Is when you understand the effects that they actually exist, you can get on top of the effects so that they don't affect you, like they will affect somebody who has no knowledge of it. Now, on a Saturn level, on a physical level, as we see the four corners of the earth, and I say the four corners because, obviously the earth doesn't have corners, but I'm not saying the motherfucker is round either. Everybody's talking about the flat earth. I haven't done my research, but it feels flat to me because I don't fuck with NASA, but I still have more research to do, so I'm not going to even get into that right now. I'm not qualified to speak on that in depth as of yet. So that'll be in the futures, but let's stay on point. Now, on a physical level, on a microcosmic level, how do you affect change? What will affect change or affect the motion of an object on a physical level? And we can think about all type of physical things that may affect you from, or that may stop you from doing something. It's all type of physical things that may interfere with you. So we don't really need to get into what that means. So we know we can have physical interference as well as psychic interference. Physical interference, psychic interference. But depending on your understanding of that interference, you can either be on top of it, and they teach this in the Kabbalion and the 7 Hermetic laws on how to get on top of the swinging pendulum. Like the right and the left swing, we can't stop that. We can't stop the pendulum from swinging, but you can stay on top of the swing of the pendulum. So you right here, and this motherfucker is still swinging, but you're unaffected. But if you're down here, and this motherfucker is influencing your shit, you're going to go with the tides because there's no way to stop the tides. So you're going to be swinging with this motherfucker all over the place. But if you get on top of this motherfucker, it still swings, but you don't feel it or you are unaffected. It's not that shit doesn't happen. You just know how to control yourself while this shit happens, and you don't get all in your feelings and all of your emotions while this shit happens. You can stay at peace and tranquil within yourself. So when it passes, it is what it is. You get what I'm saying? So now, what is it? So the sun deals with force, the attribute of force, which is again something that changes the motion of an object. Now, what about Saturn? Right? What's the energy of Saturn? Let's look over here. It's control. So the sun is force. Saturn is control. Now, what is control? Obviously, we know what control is. But I'll read the definition. If you want the actual definition, I will read the definition right now. So what is the definition of control, if you want an actual definition? The power to influence or direct people's behavior or the course of events. I'll read it one more time. What is control? The power to influence other people's behavior, the power to influence or direct other people's behavior, or the course of events. It sounds a lot like force, doesn't it? But it's on a different level. So you see, force and control is the same thing, just a different expression. So you got the sun or the cosmic force having an influence on your behavior. Then you have the control of Saturn also having an influence on your behavior as well. Now, what is the control of Saturn? What are the attributes of Saturn? The greatest attribute of Saturn is time. What has a greater effect on your behavior other than time? And what is time? We know what time is money, right? What has a greater influence on people's behavior other than time and money? You're either trying to do things before you hit a certain age, or you want to do things before. So that's what keeps you motivated. Or you're trying to get your money up. That's what's keeping you motivated. Time and money. So on a physical level, what's controlling people's behavior and controlling the course of events is time and money, which is Saturn. Just like you work with the number 8, which is a number of Saturn, it teaches you how to better control your time and your money. That's obviously, the Capricorn energy. So on a physical level, the greatest influencer of people's behavior in the course of events is time and money. On a cosmic level, the greatest influencer of people's behavior or course of events is astrology, the 12 zodiac sign, the cardinal energies of the universe. So we're dealing with the number 9. So that's dealing with the number 9 from the 18th point of view. So we dealt with the raw number 9. We just dealt with number 9 from the 18th point of view. Now we're going to deal with 9 from the 27. From the 20, opening up the gateways of the 27 to understand the energy of Mars, or the masculine principle. What cards are those? So let's get those out right now. Did I show you? I didn't show you the cards in the other deck. So let me show you the Saturn and the Sun cards in these other decks before we move on to the 27. And appreciate everybody for sticking in. I know this is advanced, but I know for some of you this is right up your alley and you have no problem understanding anything I'm saying. So salute to you, everybody who stay on their shit, everybody who constantly study on a daily basis, no matter if it's physics, psychology, spirituality, psychodefense, metamorphosis, whatever you study, and as long as you aggressively study, your internal, your Gnostics, study the Gnostics, the knowledge, the tree of life, whatever, you just aggressively, the same aggression that people have for the money, you had that aggression towards knowledge and wisdom. That's how you know. Because when you have an understanding of all these principles, you can see more than somebody who just, their whole reality is based on time and money. Those are their four limitations. Let me show you. Their limitations, their square, because a square has 4 sides. Their square rests on time and money. That influences their whole life. Nothing goes beyond that. I need to do this by this time. I only got 24 hours in a day. So, let me show you these energies from a different perspective. Let me make sure the battery is good. All right, we got 50%, so we good. It's 1:45. So we working with good time. So let's deal with this energy. The universe, the sun. Give me 1 second here. The sun and the world. All right, so here's the sun from the animal kingdom. And you see his power. And what is this word? Genesis. And Genesis is just another word for source. So it's basically power and source, where you can pull power from your source. So obviously, when you have a sense of what your source is, whether it be what constellation that you are most familiar with or has the most influence in your life, or what numerology has the most influence in your life, or it is you working with all the energies separately and understanding them separately so you can see how they work together. You must study all these energies separately to understand how they work together. So yeah, we out west. It's definitely West Coast time, 1:45. West Coast time, Pacific Coast, whatever. So this is the sun, and here's the universe. Right? Just to give you all a visual. Obviously, you see all the astrology signs here. See the earth, you see the animal kingdom. Right? And here are the same cards in the Egyptian deck. Right? Looks familiar? Right? We saw the two fairies in the first card, and we see the pantheon of gods or astrology signs, and they standing in the middle of you see all the colors of the rainbow, full spectrum of colors that they're standing in, and obviously you see the sun on top of a hill. So you see there's similarities there with the other card. Let me show y'all that. So you see this, and you see this. See? Same ideas, just being expressed in a different way. And for the universe, and this deck is called the world. It's not called the universe, it's called the world. But obviously you see the man in the middle of the Vesica Pisces. If you don't know what the Vesica Pisces is, it's the energy, the feminine energy, or in other words, the pussy. Right? Now, see the same energy here. The Vesica Pisces, the four corners, you see the four spirits on the four corners, boom, boom, boom. Right. So let's deal with these last cards. Let's work with 9 from the 27. 2 plus 7 equals 9. So how do you get there? And we'll wrap it up after this. We get up out of here. All right. The moon and this. All right. Now, the 27 is the moon. Well, not the 27. The number 2 is the energy of the moon. The number 7 is the energy of K2. And for this example, K2 would be represented as the energy of Pisces. This will be represented as the energy of the moon. So this is the energy of the moon. Or no, actually, I got it backwards. Energy of the moon is a high priestess. We see that's the crescent right there. So this is the moon. So this is the number 2. This is the energy of the moon. This is the energy of K2, which is the card moon, which we see this is the energy of Pisces. Right. Okay. Now, we see that this is like a feminine, these are feminine numbers, right? Or water numbers, dealing with the water element. So what does the 27 have to do with the 9? Because you can get to the 9 through the 27. How is that possible? Now, let's look at the moon, or the high priestess. The high priestess deals with the idea of speed. Because if we look at the idea of speed or velocity, so this deals with the idea of speed and velocity. Velocity and speed, they're one and the same. Now, what does speed have to do with any of this? And obviously, the Hebrew letter or the Hebrew symbol to represent the energy of the moon is the camel. That's why you see the camel right there at the bottom. It represents travel. And also, it's like a metaphysical Venus, or basically the high priestess. So it's like a Venus card, but on a spiritual level. So you see the instrument in her hand. So she rules the subtle vibrations of the universe, you can say. So with her instrument, she plays her instrument, and the vibrations or the frequency emitted from the vibrations are sent throughout the universe. So you can say the high priestess affects the universe with her instrument. So when you are tapped into the universe, and again, I don't want to use the universe because the universe represents a lot of energies. I definitely want to emphasize being specific with the type of energies you work with. So you don't want to just say the universe, because that's basically everything. And sometimes you don't want to work with certain energies. That's why I emphasize working with specific types of energy to a particular goal. So don't just say the universe, be specific about what direct energy you want to tap into so you can tap directly into that energy as opposed to the universe. If it's just the universe, tapping into everything, but some elements are needed, but some elements are not needed. So if you're putting in elements that are not needed to something that is needed, then it offsets the whole thing. So the more specific you are with the energies that you work with, the greater your results would be, because you are working directly with the energies you need, as opposed to just saying the universe, because you don't know what the specific energies are. But you find out what the specific energies are when you study numerology. All energies can be summed up within numerology. Within that 1 through that 9 can represent all energy. So the more you study numerology, you can be able to pinpoint how to access whatever energy you want. You just have to say the numbers and know what number corresponds to what energy. And when you have the number, you're going to have a planet. When you have a planet, you're going to have an animal spirit. When you have an animal spirit, you're going to have a psychic or a spiritual spirit or a God form. And of course, you're going to have your chakras. You're going to have some type of physical place. Every zodiac sign represents a physical place. The feet all the way up to the head. Obviously the Aries is the head, the feet is the Pisces, so on and so forth, and everything in between. So let's get to this 2 and this 7. So again, the priestess or the high priestess controls the universe with the subtle vibrations. What about the moon? What about the Pisces? This is the subconscious realm. Because one thing I didn't mention is this, and I wrote this down for this specific purpose. Now, before we even get into that, what about the subconscious? Right? The number 7, the number 2. Now let's work with the subconscious. The subconscious is, but not what the subconscious is. We pretty much know what the subconscious is. It's basically everything that goes on within your body that you're not sending commands to, like your heartbeat, the digestion, all the things that you don't have to think about that's still going on. That's being controlled by the subconscious. Now, when you study psychology, what is the connection between the subconscious and psychology? Psychology tells you that there is a way where people, as a psychic defense, people project their attributes onto other people and not notice them within themselves. What do I mean by that? Meaning, going back to the solar plexus, that self-talk, going back to the self-talk, when you start projecting negative energy to other people and not notice that within yourself, most of the time is within ourselves. Like when we even feel the need to say anything about anybody else, most of the time it's us not noticing those attributes within ourselves, because we really don't have time to judge anybody else. We're not nobody else's judge. We don't have time to say what this person should or shouldn't be doing. That's really none of our concern. That's why we don't focus our time saving other people. You focus your time saving your own ass, saving your own soul. That's how you spend your time. You spend your time on yourself. Because if you spend your time trying to save other people, knowing damn well everybody has free will, so you can't force anything upon anybody, just like nobody had to force this lifestyle upon you, you can't force it upon nobody else. So you have to respect everybody's space, even if you fucking hate it. Sometimes you have to remove yourself from a situation as opposed to dealing with a situation. That's what this represents. The moon represents what's going on the subconscious level. So as you see, you have what's really going on, then you have what you think is going on. So you see these hands are pulling down the sun. The sun is being held down by these pair of hands, and the projection that is being projected is what you see on a physical plane. So what does that mean? So you see a lot of hills and valleys. So basically, this is the same image. This is the physical manifestation of what's going on a psychic level. On a psychic level, all you see is energy waves, right? Just like we said here, on a psychic level, all you see is energy waves. She's just projecting her energy out in the form of her instrument by the use of energy waves or subtle vibrations or frequencies. The same thing is happening here where you see all these waves. And a certain mathematical formula, and this is the physical pictorial representation of what's going on a subconscious level. So you have the moon and you have the priestess. So what is this talking about? So 9 also represents 9 opening up the gates of the 27, or 27 opening up the gates to 9. You can access the 9 energy using these subtle vibrations being projected by the universe. Or in other words, you can use the power of your subconscious. If the subconscious is powerful enough to project your own self and your own faults and limitations to somebody else and you not even notice them, you thinking this person is just a motherfucker when it's really you, and you can't even notice that, That's just how powerful the subconscious mind is. If you know it's that powerful, then you can reverse that and make it to the point where you believe what you want to believe about yourself. Fuck everybody else. You believe what you want to believe about yourself, and you maximize your potential by having faith within your own self. You can project out faith instead of narcissism, as people say, right? So you can project narcissism and project negativity upon somebody else that is really within yourself. You don't really want to deal with your own reality, so they become the reason why you can't do whatever you want to do. You get what I'm saying? You project your own limitations and your own inability to do things onto other people to justify your own limitations. But when you counteract that by having your psychic defense up, you can counteract that, so you're not projecting anything on other people. You're constantly projecting your own energy out using your faith. And you are manifesting your highest potential as opposed to trying to break down somebody else and what they should or shouldn't be doing in a flawed universe. We know we're in a flawed universe. So there will never be perfection. Perfection is not perfect in an imperfect universe. With that being said, that's why so many people, as we see with the moon, illusion. Most people deal in illusion, whether it be in the form of plastic surgery, movies, music, psychedelics, drugs, all these is dealing with the realm of illusion. Now, you can visit the realm of illusion spiritually and get psychic insight, but it's also, you can go into those lunar realms and get lost, which most people tend to get lost within their own emotional pools, which is this, right? You can get lost within your own vibrations and wave frequencies that you are projecting out. You can get lost within your own energy. You don't even know what's going on. It's like being in the middle of the ocean and you don't know how the fuck you got there. But it's like, it's your ocean. It's like, it's you. It ain't nobody else. It's just you. And you don't know what's going on. So when you access an energy of the number 9 going through the gates of 27, which is the subtle realm. See, now we're dealing all with subtle energy. So we went from the heroic and that raw masculine energy of Mars all the way to the subtle vibrations that you can't even detect with your eyes. You're only able to detect it with your intuition and from your sixth sense. All these are ways to get to that energy of Mars. So you can have a change or an influence on a psychic level and a physical level using subtle vibration. This is why you do things like meditation and mantras and things that you really don't. It's all about the subtle vibrations more so than being big and bad. So you can take that approach if that's your approach, being big and bad and out front and being heroic, or you can take the subtle route. But they all can affect things on a macrocosmic level as well. So that's the end of that. The point I want to basically bring home is when you start combining these numbers and you see that all these single digit numbers from 1 to 9 can be broken down from higher and higher numbers. Again, 9 can be 9, it can be 18, it can be 27, it can be 36, or it can be 45, it can be 54, it can be 63, etc., 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 etc. Right? So we know we can access these energies from a variety of ways. 9 can also be accessed if we want to use 3 digits, 333, 666, 999. If you want to use three digits, and you can build higher, 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 and higher and higher. Right? So being able to understand, study these energies separately. Study 1 through 9 separately. Once you have a base on 1 through 9, you will be able to see, okay, when you see 27, you know what that is. And you know that the 27 breaks down to 9, and you can understand the story or the picture that it's trying to present to you. That's why it's good to have a tarot deck if you like the tarot cards, or if you study the Hebrew alphabet, or you study the tree of life, whatever your spiritual system is. This is why you have a spiritual system, so you can start to enhance your mathematics. You can do more and more complex rituals in mathematics to the point where you can get to a level of doing ceremonial magic to the point where you can influence the cosmos and you can speak, you can have a direct connection to, like I said, the constellation of Aries or Scorpio, Pleiades, Polaris, and androgen or androgen, whatever it is. I don't know all the star constellations. There's many, many out there, but all the star constellations are within us as well. So everything we see up there is also within us. So when you connect to an outside star, this is connecting to a star within you that you can activate and that you can project in the realm of illusion. This is a realm of Maya. See, everybody says this is an illusion. They are correct. But because we know this is an illusion, it's all about projecting these illusions into the physical plane. We are supposed to project illusions into the physical plane to learn about who and what we are and what we're capable of and what we can do with our magic or our sorcery. This is why it's Maya. You are supposed to project these energies into the physical plane to understand and to study these energies, which enhances the way you see the universe or everything around you, right? Study the universe in its individual elements, then you can understand it as these elements all work together as one system. But you can break these things down into separate things and study them separately, so you can, when you piece it back together, it makes more sense, right? So, with all that being said, I made myself as clear as I can make myself. Use this as a study guide to do even more advanced things that I have not mentioned here. So, probably see y'all in about a week. Till then, salute everybody that stayed tuned. Salute everybody who's hungry for the knowledge, that's hungry for that time and that money. Master your physical plane as well as your psychic plane. And we're going to get up out of here. So, we got shit to do. So, let's get on our grind. 1, we out this motherfucker.